So we'll call to order the December 13th, 10 a.m. special called meeting of the Danville-Boyle County Planning and Zoning Commission. And Commissioner Ann Sleet, will you give us our invocation? Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from our October 25th meeting. So we'll need a motion. Is that a motion to approve? Okay, from Rita. Do we have a second? Okay. All in favor? Next on our agenda is the fiscal year 23 audit presentation. Chad Robinson will be giving us a summary of our formal annual audit. Chad's with Kerbal Roads in Butler. And for what it's worth, Michaela and I met with Chad and went over the audit in detail on, I guess it was Friday, November 17th. So Chad will be presenting an overview of it today.
Thanks. As Terry mentioned, my name is Chad Robinson with Kerbal Roads in Butler. Just to kind of get things started, I will be brief, just give a couple highlights. I want to thank Michaela for all her help. Everything went smooth just in her first year. Kind of just going through a few quick highlights. Page 1 is the audit opinion. And a couple years ago, they changed the report format, and so now the opinion is right there. In the first 2 paragraphs on the first page. In the second paragraph, it says that your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. It's an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. That's what you shoot for, so that is a good thing. The rest of the report is kind of boilerplate language. It goes through management responsibilities, the auditor responsibilities, and a couple tidbits on required supplementary information, and then also government auditing standards report in the back, which I'll mention here in just a second. I'm going to skip through the next section, which is management's discussion analysis. It's pretty straightforward, just kind of gives a brief summary of what has gone on during the fiscal year. I'm going to flip to page 8. Page 8 is essentially it's your balance sheet. Governmental financial statements present 2 separate financial statements. You have the governmental fund statements and then the government-wide. You'll see there's 3 columns on that page. That first column is the general fund financial statements, and those are basically your current assets, your current liabilities. It does not include long-term assets or long-term liabilities. That last column includes everything. So you'll see the adjustments that go from the general fund to the government-wide. Probably the biggest item on your balance sheet is the net pension and OPEB liability. I point that out just to say those contributions are currently funded. So every year the state comes out with an actuarial valuation and says this is what the contribution rate is for your employees, and that's what you pay into it. So those liabilities show up, but unless you terminated the plan, you would not pay, owe that amount. You pay it currently as each year goes. And that is what causes, if you look at the bottom right, the total net position, which is your equity position, those liabilities being on the balance sheet 100% causes that negative equity position. And so I just wanted to point that out, that those are not going to be funded that you necessarily owe. They are current funded each year. So that's just basically the pension plans are in a deficit position. They owe more out than the assets that are to pay them at this point in time. So the next page is page 9. It's your income statement. Once again, you have a 3-column format. The first column is current, your current revenues and expenses. In this column, capital assets are expensed in the year, won't be on there because they're on the balance sheet, and only your interest portion of your debt payments are on there. And the debt payments are for a copier lease. That's what your debt payments are. Just to point out one, quick item, the change in net position, which is your overall change in net position, was $44,170. So that's your net income for the year. And that was driven by construction review fees were way up in 2023. And then also you had some positive pension adjustments. So the plan assets made some money this year, and so that deficit reduced, and that flows through to the income statement. So the next section is footnotes. I'm not going to go anything specific on these. They're pretty self-explanatory. There's 3 or 4 pages on each of the pension and the OPEB. And the OPEB is the health insurance portion of the retirement plan. There's several pages of footnotes on both of those that are required to be in there. Nothing specific that I necessarily want to point out unless you've got specific questions on it. The next page I wanted to point to was page 22. This is just your budget to actual performance, and really just wanted to point out that you brought in more revenue than you anticipated, and that was primarily through the construction review fees. And then you spent less than you anticipated as well. So all of that was positive for the year, left you, in the positive on both the revenues and the expense side. The last thing I will touch on is on page 30. And this report is the internal control over financial reporting. So basically this report, if we find any internal control deficiencies that we want to point out to the commission, this is where that goes in. And really the only thing of note here is just the lack of segregation of duties, and that's just because the office size is so small. That's been in there for several years and will continue just because of the lack of number of employees. Just continue to oversee the financial reporting aspect. Outsourcing the bookkeeping certainly helps in that aspect. But that's really the only thing of note to point out there. That's all that I have. Unless you've got specific questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Anyone have any specific questions of Chad? Okay, we need a motion then to accept.
I'll so move.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting the audit report? Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Chad.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The one thing I'll comment as a result of the audit, this is where we really find out what our really ending balance really was. And at the time we did our budget for this year, we thought that we would end up with a balance of about $101,000. We wound up at about $118,000 because of the stronger fees that we collected in the last couple months of the year. So that's always positive to start the year at a higher number than we thought we were going to start at going into the budget. Okay, next topic is the financial report, and we don't have the November financial statement, so we'll be looking at October's. And if you go to that, which is it's after the meeting minutes that we just approved. You go to the page that says statement of accounts on the top. This is for October, so we're 33% through the year. So if we were exactly on budget for both income and expenses, we'd be at 33%. And we're under budget in both cases. Our revenue is revenue is at 26% rather than 33%. And the main reason for that is we've yet to receive the Danville and Boyle County contribution for the second quarter of the year. It's not unusual. We don't get that till about this time of year. So, I mean, that's the reason why, the primary reason it's behind. Also, some of our fees are below budget, but that is also not unusual for this time of year. This is a typically slower time of year. We go to the expenses. Again, if we were on plan, we'd be at 33%. And if you look at kind of the second half of that page, the bottom half of the page where we summarize expenses. The one thing I want to point out is under health and dental insurance, you can see that we budgeted for the year to spend about $24,000 on health and dental insurance. And actually, Michaela and Lisa have been picked up by the county and are now being carried by the county in their health and dental insurance plan. And as yet, the county has not cross-charged us yet for carrying them. And so we're quite a bit under budget because of that, the fact that we had budgeted to pay for Michaela and Lisa's health and dental, and that currently is being picked up by the county.
So we'll see that in the future month, January,
That's
February,
yet to
whenever.
be determined.
Oh, okay. All right.
We're going to keep it in the budget in case we have to pay for it.
Keep track of it for the moment.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you flip it over and go to the bottom of the last page, you'll see that our year-to-date expenses are at 24% as opposed to 33%. So both our income and expenses are below. Actually, our expenses are further below plan than the income was, which is good. And so Michaela, at the end of today's meeting, will be going over our actual updated forecast for the year, and you'll see that both those numbers look good, both the expense and the income. So any questions about October's financial report? Okay, I think we need a motion on that as well.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, you have a second?
Second?
Dan will second. All in favor? Okay, now we'll move on to construction sureties. Michaela, you want to talk to that?
Yes, thank you, Terry. So Kelly Griffith, Knobview Trace. This is kind of a unique situation, so I'll try and explain it as best I can, but he chose to do the 20% bonding option, which requires him to fully complete the street before he's able to record the plat and then start selling off lots. At this point, the street is completed. He's just working on the remaining portion of the sidewalk, so the project is largely complete at this point. And so he's essentially asking that instead of doing the 20% bonding option, we basically switch him over to the 100% bonding option. We'll still hold the same amount. We'll still hold that 20% bond until the street is complete and accepted. But this would just allow him to record the plat and start selling off lots, similar to how we would handle a 100% bonding option. So nothing would change as far as risk for the planning commission or anything like that. We'll still have a bond if anything were not to be completed. It will still have to go through street acceptance, things like that, before we release the letter of credit. It just allows for him to go forward with recording the plat and moving forward with the project. But do you all have any questions on that?
That's your recommendation?
Yeah, that is my recommendation. I drove out last week, probably even more of the sidewalks done than I was there. It was probably 2/3 done when I was out there, so, and Dale can answer any questions.
And actually, Kelly just told me, Kelly's here, but he just told me that as of yesterday, the sidewalks are now complete, so everything is completed.
Yeah, it's more, okay.
Yeah, this, waiting for the street acceptance, it's gonna have to go through Junction City Commission, which would happen in January sometime, and then it will have to come through Planning Commission to get the letter of credit release. So he's potentially looking at an 8 to 10 week holdup for being able to record the plat and start, making money on the lots of the development. So this just allows him to move forward with recording the plat, but again, no risk involved for us because we still hold money which it sounds like it's completed anyway, so.
And neither one of you have concerns at all? That sounds fine. Sounds like a good plan.
Well, we need a motion then to reclassify the bonding option.
I'd like to make that motion to classify the bonding option.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, unanimous. All right, next is subdivision approvals, and we only have 2 on the agenda today because most of these subdivision approvals are now able to be made by Michaela and Lisa because of the changes we made a meeting or so ago.
Have you found any concerns, Director, doing this?
As far as our minor.
Your work at
plat
the minor,
process.
classifying minor or that category, that was my biggest concern, is making that decision classified as clear.
No, I haven't had any problems yet. If I ever had any slight hesitancy as to whether it was a minor or major, I would just bump it to major and just send it through planning commission. So if there's ever any doubt on my end, that's what I
Okay,
would
so
do.
yeah,
But
your guidelines are clear and you're not having any troubles applying it. Okay,
yep,
that's
I think
good.
so. So
Thank you.
I think it's been good. We've been able to process a few plats since we've done this much more efficiently than we were doing in the past. So
Well, it's not the busy time. When we get to the springtime, we may see a little more of that. But
yep, it'll keep Lisa and I busy. But all
So
right.
we'll review both of these, and then we'll just have a single vote on both of them.
Should we do them separately?
What do you
or-
need?
They're both meeting, I don't think so, they're both meeting our requirements, it's just the Owens property is a little bit unique, with it being public improvement, but I think we can do the same motion, so. All right, so this is Highcliff Properties LLC has applied for the subdivision of a 91.535 acre parcel of land located at 735 Dry Fork Road. Vantage Engineering was the surveyor on this. They are creating 10 tracks. You can see the majority of them are up on the frontage here along Dry Fork Road. All the proposed lots are meeting our requirements. There is a proposed ingress-egress easement that would be created. I think it's to benefit Tract 6 and Tract 5. There were some questions at TRS about the location of the structures here. You can see they're all fairly close within Tract 4 and Tract 5. We had made a previous interpretation and determination for these, I don't even want to call this a flag lot, but it's kind of functioning as such with so much of that frontage being along the rear of those proposed lots, that those would meet side yard setbacks, and for accessory structures, that would be 5 feet. If you all feel differently, then we would have to look at those lots because it would not be meeting the front yard setback that would be required for an accessory structure, but we did ask for just some type of note on the plat, just to list what the distances were for those, or just clarify that they're all beyond 5 feet, but eyeballing it, it looks like they should all be beyond the 5 feet that would be required. Are there any questions for me on that one?
So Michaela, all the structures that we're talking about stay with the main property, is that right?
Yeah, aside from on Tract 5, there's an existing house and garage. You can kind of see, but then the remainder of the structures that are shown would be on Tract 6, which is essentially the parent tract, the remainder tract.
Any other questions on this one? Okay. So do we want to do a motion on this one, or do we want to?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do a motion.
Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion to accept, please.
And I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, unanimous. So we'll go to the second subdivision approval now, Owens Chevrolet and Team Letter LLC.
Yep. All right, so Owen Chevrolet and Team Leader LLC have applied for the subdivision of 1.441 acres and 2 tracts for road right-of-way along Fry and Mave Lane, Danville, a part of the May development. Property is zoned general business and highway business. This is essentially, they're dedicating the right-of-way. This is the Chick-fil-A lot. This is the extension of May Boulevard that we previously approved. They're showing the right-of-way as being in 2 separate tracks here. So the majority of it is here, but there is one small portion here. That shouldn't impact, it would all just be dedicated public right-of-way. That road is largely complete. It is closed due to some issues they're working through with the gas company. So typically, this would be one that we would take a bond for the road construction. But with it being largely complete, I'm not quite sure how we want to move forward with that. I think that's something that we'll have to work through with the city engineer. But
Is that a miss? We should have been doing that?
we were aware that was happening. The city has been working with them on this, so yeah. It is what it is. They didn't want to bring a plat forward earlier. I think there was some hesitation about dedicating the public right away until some negotiations were complete.
If you don't have a bond and there's an issue later, or the inability to complete that, is that what the bond would have been providing us?
Yeah, that's what the bond would be for. So, if the planning commission still wants us to see us take some type of bond for the remainder of the work, I'm not sure how much work is going to end up having to be done to meet the gas company requirements.
Well, that's why I mean, I think we have to do something, but I don't know what that dollar value would
Yeah.
be. That's the issue that I see.
Yep. Dale, do you want to comment on this at all?
Yeah, be sure to state your name and address.
Dale Shepperson with AGE at 165 Foster Lane. So what was your question?
Mine had to do with the amount. The bond is there to help secure in case there's an issue we have to resolve, to finish it separately. That's what it comes to, but we don't seem to know what the amount of work that could be.
Right, well, the road, like Michaela said, is complete. The only issue there right now is they're upgrading that pipe right there at the start of the drive over one of the pipelines. But I'm sure that if you needed to put some type of bond on it, that would be sufficient because it's going to be, it's going to be done and completed. It already is completed, but it's going to be turned over to the city at, the next meeting, whenever that will be.
Right, and the bond doesn't, the time frame is not part of the bond. We can change the time frame.
Right.
The idea would be have the money to be able to complete that portion of work. That's what we don't want to leave it, because that particular section of road is very important to the growth of that area.
Yes, yes.
It's it's very important to have that.
Like I say, it is complete except for the cutout that they've got right now for that pipeline, but it's not like it's not going to be complete. It's going to be complete within,
As soon as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I well, then bond also allows us to make sure that we have the money available to have the work done, if we have to
Yeah,
have it.
I mean, it would depend if the street really is it gonna be on the January 8th city commission meeting? Is that what you're saying?
I can't say for 100% because I don't know that they'll have that cut
Okay,
completed yet. So I would
Yeah.
hate to say that, yes, it's going, but that is the goal, is before the January 8th
yeah,
meeting.
I mean, even if you were to request the bond to be active on here, it's going to take another month to establish it.
yeah,
We're back
that
in the
was
same
my
time.
my thought.
And my
And-
tendency is to request the fund, but drag it and watch the other events. If you need to implement it, you've got it started. If you
Yeah.
don't, that's a different story.
I mean, what we would be bonding for is completed. There are potential need for changes to the street due to the gas company, but that's getting worked through in the courts. I'm not sure that we would have caught that at the beginning cost estimate anyway, even if this had come through earlier. We will have to collect the 1% construction review fee, so we'll just do it based off what the cost was, probably negating the current cost of the gas company issues, but,
I'm trying to decide in my mind whether it's appropriate to establish the bond itself, is what I'm saying. Because you're right, the dollar amount can be adjusted based upon the conditions and the activities as a revision later.
I don't, we would accept the bond probably and then have to release it within
right.
a week. And with the work being complete, the cost estimate at this point would be negligible. So I'm not sure that makes much sense. I do think it makes sense to collect our review construction fee because that's what we charge for streets being constructed and dedicated to the public right-of-way. But beyond that, I'm not sure that makes sense to collect a bond. It's just a unique, this isn't following our typical procedure.
That's right. It's not following the typical procedure the way it was done.
Yeah.
That's
Correct.
what concerns me is when you don't do that, there was a hole somewhere along the way that could evolve and
Yeah.
may not.
I mean, I think at this point, it affects, the developer took the risk. The city will have to decide if they want to accept this street. It didn't go through the typical procedure, so that's, I would say to their discretion. For us, for the plating process, it's meeting our requirements to be platted as a public right-of-way. We'll still collect the review construction fee, get those costs to submit construction plans or as-built for our files, things like that. So we will fill out the file. It's just, I think it's going to be up to the city's discretion to see how they feel about the way it was constructed, so.
The bonding is a requirement that we've applied on many, many times. It did not happen in this case for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to determine yes or no on why
Yeah.
they did it.
I think the
It's just a
biggest reason
statement.
was the expediency of this
Well, and
project.
it's still required, just like
Yeah.
you're doing, struggling to decide, it still is, that speed is a speed is a speed. Bonding is one of those things that we do.
Yeah.
And it's for a good purpose there.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we come back later and impose a bonding?
I don't know. I mean, because, like I said, the bond is there as to diminish risk for if a developer were to leave and we say we had already sold this Chick-fil-A lot and that May Boulevard didn't have frontage, there would be no access to that lot. But with the road being built at this point, we would be bonding for, it wouldn't be covering any potential risk with the street already being complete. but-
I'm not comfortable satisfying a precedence for another event to happen exactly the same way.
Yeah.
It's awkward. I can see your concern. I know I got my certain amount of concern, no matter what the dollar amount is on the bond.
Yeah, I don't know if Henry wants to weigh in on this.
I just don't have it in front of me, but I know we have a construction contract in the event of public improvements, and I didn't know if that kept developers on the hook for those improvements even when the bond monies run out. Is that a protection that exists that's maybe preferable to trying to stick a bond on afterwards?
I'd probably have to look at that. I thought
Okay.
the intent of the construction contract was more just to give us the legal ability to enter the site to review progress and things like that, but we can review that.
That would be a great way to do it if it does cover that.
Worth considering,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
and if
very,
it
very
doesn't,
much worth
maybe
considering.
Put it on anyway, yep. So,
Otherwise, I'm thinking in my mind, don't do anything now, but have the rights to bring it up in the next meeting, if we need to, in our next meeting. Won't be any worse on time frame than if we did it this meeting.
yeah, I mean, typically we wouldn't collect the bond until they're ready to
Correct.
construct. So some people bring in a platting right of way and, we don't collect the bond for
Yeah,
6,
they-
8 months, a
and those are-
year,
those-
the
The
it's
timing
just,
is there, but the idea
Yeah.
that we establish a need to have the bond, that's really,
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get to, the same
Yeah.
thing you're referring
And
to.
this, I should point out, this is a unique situation because it's not, it's providing a connection to May Boulevard, but it's not really providing access to a specific development or lot. Like when you're looking at a subdivision, a typical subdivision, say, take Kelly Griffiths, for example, even if he went out and built all that, he'd be building it on one property. We wouldn't have accepted any platting of those additional lots and things like that. So it would, this is kind of a unique circumstance because it's a road that's going back to an existing water tower and city property, and it's really just providing that one connection to May Boulevard rather than providing access for a full subdivision or development, if that makes sense. It is kind of a unique,
Correct. This road basically leads to nothing right now.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing that comes off of this road, except for the fact that you could go complete, you know, you go around the Chick-fil-A building. Chick-fil-A has access already.
That's right, we recognize that.
Right,
You've
and
been
this,
in line
and
now.
there is an easement in place now without the road being there to get back to the city water tower. This is completely for future and, of course, for the access to be able to get around the Chick-fil-A lot. And as we all know, everything on Chick-fil-A was very timely, and this was, they didn't start constructing that road until after around the 7th or 8th of November, and then we didn't have a meeting in November, and so this is why this is all about.
Well, in a general rule of thumb, time is money. So the longer you have this process, things happening like that, it costs more money.
Yeah.
If you want to make something lower cost, is you do it on a streamlined approach. So I'm coming back to my thought here, lessons learned. Is there something in our standards and our guidelines and our character that we need to put in to accommodate this to happen next time? But to make sure people are very clear of the need to have that bonding if that's something that we knew. What
Yeah.
will
I
we
mean,
learn after this?
Most developers have the incentive to want to go through our bonding process because they wouldn't be able to plat any additional lots without showing frontage. That's why I
That's
say
correct.
this is a unique situation. It would be an inherent risk to go ahead and start building out all the infrastructure on a lot without bringing any type of plat forward that you know is going to get approved and go through review with the utilities and things like that. The reason that this came about the way it did is because the group that is developing Chick-fil-A and potential future development on that is a different owner than who owns the lot that's creating this public right-of-way. So that is a part of why it didn't come through at the same time as the May Boulevard, but
And I'm not trying to say that anybody's at fault. I'm trying to figure out how we can accommodate and learn from this the next time around. It is a very, I think you've got a way of getting this in that quick is of good value for the community. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm trying to make sure we don't also ignore our standards and guidelines that we have.
yeah. No, I agree. I'm just saying I don't know how to do it just because this is such a unique scenario. I can't think of many instances where you'd be constructing a road that wouldn't be creating the
Well,
primary frontage or
What
access.
I might
so-
challenge you, Director, is put it in your things to look at and decide how we can
Yeah.
make our standards allow this to happen. Because
Yeah.
it is a good thing.
Yep.
I don't know either. I don't have an answer to this either.
Yep,
And in this case, it has turned out, or it appears to be turning out just fine.
yep.
It's a learning lesson on there, so.
Yep.
Jim?
I'll make the motion that considering the low risk of this at present with it, that we don't require a bond.
Second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay.
Okay,
As for the plat,
right.
we'll still need approval of that.
We still need a motion now to.
Yeah, the only condition I asked was that they'll include a cross-section of the road for the final, and I believe I asked for utility signatures as well. So that's it, but otherwise, it's meeting our requirements. So.
So we need a motion now on the plat itself, accepting the plat along with the road cross-section and utility signatures.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, we have a second? Jim? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay,
Thank you, Earl.
Unanimous?
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the public hearings. And so we'll be going into the public hearing process at this point. And the first one is a continuation from the October 25th, 2023 meeting, and it is Vertical Bridge has applied for the installation of a 265-foot monopole telecommunication tower on a 5,625 square foot leased area, and a variance to reduce the required distance of the telecommunication tower from a residential district from 1,000 feet to 416.2 feet, and to reduce the required distance of a telecommunication tower from a residential structure from 500 feet to 467.5 feet on the eastern side of Harrodsburg Road and approximately 0.28 miles from north of Hardy Street. So we'll go into the public hearing now. Oh,
Thanks, Terry. Sorry, that's a mouthful for the agenda, but I had to make sure I got all the information in for the variance. I'm gonna only briefly cover some of the information regarding the variance, and then I'm gonna let the attorney, Mr. Patton Hahn, present the rest of the application. He's more qualified to explain the regulations with telecommunication towers than I am. I reviewed the application. They've submitted and are meeting all of our requirements except for the two variances that are outlined in the agenda, so I'll quickly cover those. And yeah, just to briefly cover again, it is just northeast of Paravel here. You can, sorry, it's a little bit hard to see, but you can see the city lines here of Paravel. And so it's just this property here to the northeast. And so this is a survey of the site. This is the proposed cell tower location of this property and the leased area, and showing the access easement back to the leased area. This is the existing residential structure on the property that we require to be 500 feet from. It's at 467.5. You can see the distance here. If you look at the survey, you can see the topographical challenges of this lot. That's why they put it as far over to the north as they could on this subject property, but that's why they couldn't meet the 500 feet feasibly. It's just due to the topography of the lot. So that's the first variance is we do require it to be 500 feet from a residential structure, so it's just shy of that, 467.5. And I want to be clear, these are local zoning ordinance requirements for the 500 feet from a residential structure and 1,000 feet from a residential zoning district. This is not federal or state requirements. This is a local zoning ordinance requirement that we've put in. And then this is just showing an overview. So the property is zoned agricultural. This is a residential subdivision to the south of the proposed tower site location. It sits at 417 feet away from the proposed tower. That math kind of boggled my mind a little bit because I know the home is at 467, but I think it's just a more direct line to the residential structure here. So typically we require that to be 1,000 feet away. So obviously it's not meeting that requirement. When you look at Paravel, it's about 5,370 feet around for the entire city. So if you're looking at trying to put a cell tower at somewhere close to the city boundaries of Paravel, you're going to have a pretty difficult time meeting that 1,000 feet requirement, just with, the way the city's laid out and the size and scope of it. So I did just want to point that out, but it is something to consider, whether you're comfortable being a little bit closer to the, about 580 feet closer to a residential district than what we typically allow in our zoning ordinance. The attorney can kind of explain some of the process when you're going through trying to find a site that's suitable, that also meets FAA requirements as far as distance to different towers and things like that. There's a lot that goes into actually looking at an area that's appropriate and acceptable for a cell tower site, and then one that actually meets the needs of, fulfilling coverage deficits and things like that. So this was the site that they were able to find that worked for their needs as far as that. And like I said, within Paravel, it is a challenge to get to that 1,000 feet just with the size of the city. But are there any questions for me on that?
At this point, we'll have everybody come forward to testify in favor. And state your name and address.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patton Hahn. I'm with the law firm of Baker Donaldson. Address is 1901 6th Avenue North, Birmingham, Alabama. And thank you for letting me come here again. I was in front of you all earlier this year We all had a little quorum issue, and unfortunately, I'm glad that looks like we'll be able to get through this. With me today, I did want to introduce Ryan Whitley and Jason Riggs. They're from Fortune Wireless. They've worked on the siting of this tower and its development and can speak to certain aspects of it. Also, this land is owned by Lemuel and Sherry Leonard. Mr. Leonard is also here today. I was talking to him earlier. I think he actually once sat where y'all sit on this, so I did want to introduce him. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I do want to get really right into it. We have some slides. Pictures generally tell stories better than lawyers, and I did want to kind of go through these. So you can see again, and we've seen earlier, where the site is in relation to the city of Perryville. And why are we building, the first question you need to ask is, why are we building this tower? We're building this tower because T-Mobile has a significant gap in its coverage around the area of Perryville. And that gap is really, most of it is north, but overall the whole city of Perryville. So the challenge here is to site it as close to the city of Perryville in a way that, if we don't comply with the strict application of these two requirements, I think honors them at least and tries to do their best. And I'll tell you, we'll look at this in a minute, but another big issue, challenge to siting this is the Battlefield Park that is just north and northwest of the town. And I'll tell you that our client looked at two different sites that were in the west part of the town, or on the west side of that town. And there was a significant concern that they would disrupt the view shed of that battlefield. So if you took out the kind of west area of the town, that put us on the east area of the town. We're 0.84 miles away from the battlefield. The other two sites we looked at west of the town, one of them was 0.2, one of them was 0.6. My client talked with the planning department, listened to those concerns, and eliminated those ones west of the town. The one that's 0.84, that we'll look at some pictures of this site, yes, you will probably be able to see it from the battlefield, some part of it. There are currently other towers you can also see from the battlefield. It's not avoidable. There is also a fairly mature stand of trees I think we'll see that shields it some. Another part of the goal of this tower is you see the two highways that are intersecting there. It's very important that people have cellular communications when they're traveling, and this will help in that respect. This is a parcel map. I'd point out to the top parcel we've looked at, there's also an existing electrical substation on the west corner. It's not actually part of the parcel, but it's kind of a cutout from the parcel. So we believed that a cell tower doesn't necessarily change the character of the use of this parcel too much. I apologize, that map below, this shows existing towers in around Danville in the area. They're a significant distance away. Those are actually all T-Mobile existing sites. Is that correct? No? Okay, these are all the towers in that area. And you can see there are not too many wireless facilities in this area. The nearest existing tower is 2.2 miles away. And again, we're talking about T-Mobile's needs. T-Mobile is not on that tower. That tower is too far away from the city of Perryville to achieve what T-Mobile is trying to do, which is increase wireless connectivity in Perryville and also for the battlefield itself. I looked on the website, and they say they get 100,000 visitors a year, which was more than I thought. But those are all people traveling to and from the battlefield. People traveling need to be able to connect with their phones. These are propagation maps, and I apologize, this is actually about a 40-mile by 20-mile area. We have some that look a little closer. You can see that little dot in the center on the bottom is what coverage would look like once this tower is turned on. The one above it, that has significantly more white and lighter purple. That's what existing T-Mobile coverage is in the area. White is no coverage at all. The lighter color is you'll have spotty outdoor and spotty in-vehicle coverage. What you're really going for is dark coverage, which is to be able to use your phone indoors, but certainly in your vehicles. Let's see, those are different frequencies. You can see the similar thing. Okay, I had these are a much more narrow thing, and I had one of my assistants kind of overlay a map on it so that you can see it. This is existing coverage in and around Perryville, and that's what it would look like if with the turned on. Again, this is just the same parcel map we saw earlier, which shows kind of the surrounding properties. This is again, the location in relation to Perryville. Then this is an area map. I wanted to show, I had my assistant kind of go over what are the heights of the towers in and around this area. There's some obviously farther west that are smaller, but this 265-foot tower is fairly consistent with the heights of towers that are allowed in this area. And this also shows where the Perryville Battlefield State Historic Site is. And again, this is the survey. Also talking, and I'm glad Michaela mentioned the topography of this site, because where we sited it is on the property is really the only place we could. Could you build it somewhere else? Yes, you probably could build it somewhere else on the property site, but it'd be very difficult, and it would cause significant disruption to the property. This is also the highest part of this parcel, and by doing that, you're actually reducing the overall height of the tower you need. The height of a tower, or the coverage you get from a tower is a function and to some degree of the height of the tower and the topography. So the higher land you can build on, the shorter the tower you need. On the two variances, again, one of the 500 setback from an existing residence, that residence is owned by our landowner, and he doesn't have a concern with it. We are at least tower height, more than tower height, away from that structure, so there's no concern that if there's, God forbid, there's a failure of this tower, that it would land on it. We were concerned about the 1,000-foot setback, and trust me, I do a lot of these towers all over the southeast. I don't even like the word variance, and whenever we can, we want to comply with it. But as Michaela said, we couldn't find a property that would lease to us that was buildable where we could ever meet that variance. And we feel that this is the least intrusive means we could do that in this instance. So I've been talking a lot more than I intended to. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Will T-Mobile allow other companies to use the tower in the future?
Yes, Mr. Boyd. So the T-Mobile will be the original tenant. T-Mobile doesn't own the tower. The company I represent, Vertical Bridge, will. There's already going to be space built onto this tower for there'll be basically two vacant spots so that Verizon, AT&T, Dish, or any other wireless carrier can co-locate on it.
Other questions that the commission have?
And did the Battlefield organization have any concerns for view?
So my client talked with Magistrate Ellis, and I believe he has talked with them. We have not had any direct communications, I believe, with the Battlefield. But we talked with Magistrate Ellis. He couldn't be here today. I feel safe in representing, based on an email I looked at, that he's supportive of this project. So we worked, my client and Fortune worked pretty closely with him, and we're in frequent communication with him.
Any other questions of the commission? Okay, thank you. Anybody else would like to testify in favor of the communication tower being located where proposed. Okay, is there anybody present who would like to testify against the tower being located where it's being proposed? Okay, at this point, then, we would close the public hearing on this particular topic, and we'd be looking for a motion from the commission.
We don't have any added conditions at all, do we? That we're looking at?
I mean, that we would put on it?
Yeah.
I've not heard of any.
They're requesting variances with this application, and I have prepared a proposed finding to support the variances. As far as application approval, there are no required findings when you approve an application. If you were to deny it, you would have to have justifications of, why it was denied and how they could better comply with our comprehensive plan or zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you, sir. Just checking.
Is Mr. Leonard okay with this tower being built there since it's close to his property?
Yes, Mr. Leonard is, and he signed an agreement with Vertical Bridge that gives them the permission to do it. And he's also mindful of the house on the parcel, and he is okay with it.
So we need a motion.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the variances as stated in the minutes, and allow the variance of both of the two variances and approve the plat.
Anything you want to add, Henry?
Can I make one correction? Sorry, I forgot this, Chairman Manning. When you originally introduced this matter, you said it was a monopole tower. It is a self-support tower, and I think that's reflected in our application. I think that's just an error. I didn't want there to be a concern about what you're approving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Knoll, I would suggest that we find the variances are supported by the following: that cell tower placement is dictated by creation of a continuous service area. Where the service area is best established by placement on this parcel, the applicant would be deprived of the ordinary use of their land, at least in the cell industry, if the setbacks were applied.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll accept that wording.
Do we have a second to the motion?
A second.
Okay, so Stephen seconds it. All in favor? Opposed? So it's unanimous. Okay, the next item on the agenda is another public hearing. And this is Donald and Sharon Kaufman have applied for a zoning map amendment on a 0.474 acre parcel of land known as 51 East Shelby Street, Junction City. The requested zone change is from multifamily residential, which is RM3, and highway business, HB. So this property is dual zoned right now, to a single zone, that is being highway business, HB.
Yep. Sorry, let me get my staff report here. All right. Yeah, so this is currently located at 51 East Shelby. So if you all are familiar, there's a commercial area to the south here. It's surrounded by commercially zoned properties. They are actually replatting this property, so that's why it catches a little bit. The highway business, it's basically rounding it out.
And we're only talking about that 147, not the adjacent one?
What's that?
There's another property just next to it?
No, it's the one that's highlighted here. It has 3 numbers, but it's the 51. So there is some multifamily residential next to it. Currently, there's a storage building on it, a commercial storage building. Their proposal is to add potentially in the future 2 additional storage buildings. So right now, it's a legally non-conforming use. My understanding is that the storage building was put in when Junction City was not in planning and zoning. And so now it's a legally non-conforming use. So this zone change would bring the subject property into like bring the use into conformity. Also, it's in agreement with the future land use map, which shows this property as commercial in the future. I would think it's in agreement with the comprehensive plan. I would think with the existing use on the property, it's appropriate to go to commercial along with, the uses surrounding it are primarily commercial or high-density residential, which is typically what you'd look for. It's on the main street of Junction City, so it has good ingress and egress and access to the property. So those are all kinds of the things that the comp plan directs us to look for when we're going to a commercial zoning district. So I do think it's meeting all of the things that the comprehensive plan is looking for. I don't have to talk too long about this unless you all have some questions. This is the conceptual plan that was submitted. So this is the existing storage building here. Basically, all of this area is paved. I have asked Dale to maybe look at the parking a little bit more so that it's straight, because I don't want anyone backing out onto Shelby Street just as a safety concern. But it's not striped right now. It's all paved, so we can work through that when they're ready. But and then these are the two proposed potential future storage buildings that the property owner would be looking at. So
I'll chime in just one thing here. Dale Shepherd again, AGE Engineering. The current building is not being used for storage right now. That current building is what was Kaufman's Photography. That's where that was at. And then there is also a lady that is in there that a bakery, not a walk-in bakery, but a like for birthday parties, cakes, for that kind of thing. So right now, it is not a storage building. It was used for two different commercial buildings. So that's the only thing.
okay, sorry, thank you.
And another thing is we have take those 45-degree angle parking lights off, slid it up the line a little bit, and made them 90 to the property line, leaving a 24-foot alley between the building and the end of the parking lot. That is the plan. Yes, yes, there will be another commercial business to come into where the existing building is, and then in the future, some possible storage units in the back. So that's the goal. So that's what we showed on the conceptual plan.
Okay, well, this being a public hearing, is there anyone else who would like to testify in favor of the proposed zone change?
I'll add one more thing, sorry. Lee Belcher is here. He is the prospective buyer of the property. So if you had any questions, or maybe what he's wanting to do or anything, but basically we've already discussed that, but I just want to let you know that he was here. So.
Anybody would like to testify in opposition to the proposed zone change? Okay, at that point, we would then close the public hearing on this item and look to the council to make for a motion. Commission for a motion.
So I just have a question, Michaela. This SWAT outline here is showing kind of a rectangular view. And then in the map view, it's more of an L-shaped property?
Yeah, they're replatting the property, so there's going to be a minor transfer and consolidation. I think we're processing it right now. Is that correct? So,
Yes.
So this is the planned,
yeah, so this is the zone change. You are required to submit a boundary survey of the zoning district. It does not have to follow existing property lines, so we can process this before the plat is complete. But once the plat is completed and recorded, it's going to follow what the zone change is
so we'll see that
showing.
again.
No, it's going to be a minor, so.
Okay.
And the sale of the property is contingent upon the zone change. So we have to, so it has to come before, while it's still in Donald and Sherry Kaufman's name, before we do an actual deed. So
Understand.
That's the reason they're seeing this first.
And this will have to go through Junction City Commission for the 2 readings, so it will probably be, another couple months.
Their meeting this week on it.
I don't know that they can put it on the agenda that quick.
I talked to Donnie and he called, I think it was you he talked to, we talked to you over the telephone. And Donnie called, I'm gonna say this, if you know Donnie, you know him. Donnie called basically the mayor and told him, he said, listen, things aren't looking good for me. He said, we need to get this going. And he knowed about this meeting and pretty much, I think he's kind of jumped aboard to, to let Junction know what he was trying to get done. So they might even have it on their docket to even look at.
Okay.
But I think Donnie's kind of went ahead with it, contingency on what was going to happen here today.
Okay, well, I can get the recommendation letter out this afternoon. I'll do my best to do that, if they want to try and push it through tomorrow.
I know he's very ill.
He's,
Is he
Donnie's,
still in the
he's not
hospital?
doing real well. And that's what, I've worked with him now for about a month or so on this project.
I know it's vacant.
He's still got a little fire on him, but he's not doing real well.
We need the business adjustments.
So we're looking to the commission for a motion.
I have a question.
Yes, you have a question?
Ms. Douglas, you're the representative from Junction City, or are you in favor of this?
Yes, I am. We need some business in that area. It's vacant now, and what happens to vacant buildings after so long? We need
Sure.
to-
Thank you.
If you go out and look at it, it does not resemble a multifamily residential property. It's, it's meant to be commercial, yeah.
Do we have a motion? What's your motion? We need a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the zone change, so we can have some business in there.
Okay, anything you would add, Henry?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's where we couch these motions in terms of conformity with the comprehensive plan. There's a objective in the comp plan that says to encourage small business development and growth by providing adequate areas zoned for commercial development. And I think this upholds that objective.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second? Okay, Ann seconds. All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay, so that closes the public hearings, part of the meeting. So at this point, we'll go into new business, so anything from the advisory committee? I don't believe so.
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. So the Budget Committee report, the topic or the subject here is the fiscal year 24 budget amendment that Michaela is going to be reviewing with us.
Yep, let me just pull this budget out. So it is double-sided. Terry had some questions about that, so just to give you all a heads up. I'm not going to run through all of this. A lot of it's pretty similar to what we looked at when we did the FY24 budget final. I've highlighted all the changes. So the first is the Boyle County contribution on line 3. The county did provide an increased contribution. This was not requested by Planning Commission. We requested $75,000 from both the city and the county. The county decided to give us an additional $1,600 for a total of $76,600. So that's what we've been requesting for funding from them for this fiscal year. So our new budget now, or the budget amendment now reflects that. I won't go through some of the revenues, but most of the projections I essentially kept the same. I think we're a little bit slower for the fall than, we're not quite at, like Terry was saying, we're not quite at the 33% that we would be looking for, but I do think we tend to pick up a little bit in the spring, but if not, I think our projections are pretty conservative, so I'm not too concerned right now. I just changed the the conditional use applications. We've received additional, so I'm expecting that to be over the 550, which is what we're already at right now. Are there any questions on the revenue aspect of it? I'll just keep moving along otherwise. Okay. The biggest change on this budget amendment is the personnel under commission expenditures on line 25 for health and dental insurance. We switched to the county insurance, as Terry was explaining. So we were paying through KLC insurance, and we are expected to pay $23,902 for this year. Right now, we're not paying the county anything for our insurance. I don't know if that will change in the future or whatnot, but currently that's the way it is. So our budget's reflecting that change, which is obviously great for our budget and viability moving forward. So we're really appreciative of the county for that. I don't think I have to go through that. For under office equipment, on line 37, this was a large format scanner that I've talked to you all about and did get support for from the city as far as trying to digitize all of our plats and plans. That's what the large format scanner would be able to allow us to do. I think it's really important for the preservation of all of our records and things like that, and it just allows us to more easily send over information when people request information on plats or plans. Right now, we can only provide partial scans. So I think that will be a big help, but I've been speaking with somebody at, Lynn Imaging out of Lexington. That's the most local place I could find that has large format scanners. I had based it off of something I had seen online. It looks like we actually need the 36-inch scanner, and they recommend 2 features. So I'm pricing it out as $5,415 rather than the $3,500 that I was anticipating. Again, I think it's worth it. I think without the 2 features that they were recommending, I think it would be around $4,000, so still a bit of a bump, but that's just something that the commission can decide. But again, I think it's a worthwhile investment for the planning commission to make. So are there any questions on that one? No? Okay. Now we're on the back side here, see if I have anything to add for this. On line 51, regarding accounting services, I believe I told you all that McDaniel Wealth Management has rolled us off their service, or they're going to be rolling us off at the end of the year. So they'll take care of our W-2s for the year. And then we've been working with Bray's bookkeeping service. So McDaniels and Bray's have been working together to try and create a smooth transition for us. But we'll be moving over to Bray's on January 1st. And we have a slight price increase from $425 a month to $500 a month. So the budget amendment, it's just reflecting that change for this year. But is there any, or sorry, I believe, yeah, 425 to 500, so. But obviously worth it. It was difficult finding a new bookkeeping service. I think I called everyone in town, but Braze seems like they'll do a good job. I'm looking forward to working with them, so. And that was really all the major changes. A few of them are just different classifications that McDaniel Wealth Management did versus what I did, but the total should about remain the same. It's just, different areas shown on the.
On line 61, you had continuing education for the commission.
So continuing education, that I believe was my $550 that I negotiated when I was hired on for my for any conferences and I have to get 32 hours every 2 years for my ASCP, but Carol Ann classified it under planning commission expenditures, so I've just moved it over. That's why I dropped it to 0.
I wondered where it went.
Yep. So that's the reason for that. But yeah, and that's most of these. I mean, I can run through these. For example, the line 58 for the comp plan, we had paid for the showroom rental for our kickoff meeting, and she classified that under education assist, so I just negated that amount and kept the rest the same for, any future expenses that we might have in the spring for the comprehensive plan, and, so. So most of them even out to about the same, they're just shown on different lines than what you were seeing before.
And we're planning in the spring that we need several more public meetings with the comprehensive plan, right? That's
Yes, I don't know whether we'll rent rooms or if we'll try and do more at the city halls and things like that. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but I anticipate a few more public meetings as far as land use charrettes and potentially input on additional elements, so once we get to that point, but we budget for it just in case if we need to have another meeting in the showroom or, additional expenses that might come up with the comp plan, so.
So the current budget amendment, then if you look at line 65, shows a $40,000 increase in net income compared to our original budget. And of that $40,000, $17,000 comes from the fact that we started the year with a higher balance. You heard from the audit report today because we had a much stronger ending of the year last year than what we had originally budgeted.
Yeah,
And then the fact that the county is currently picking up the health insurance, those two items really explain the $40,000 increase.
yep.
So we do need a motion on accepting this as our fiscal year '24 budget amendment.
Sorry, I just wanted to add one additional thing. I'm probably going to bring another budget amendment through. I know we usually only do one, but we'll probably be doing one sometime in January or February. We have been working with the city on bringing the Danville Architectural Heritage Board and their staff, which is Johnny House, she's a part-time employee, into planning and zoning. The city wants to reorganize that. And so, if that all goes through, we're going to have to do some ordinance amendments and things like that. Henry and I have been working on it. Steve's been working on it with us. And so the hope is to have that brought in either in January or February, but I want that reflected in the budget before we start going through the funding request cycles and things like that. So that will hopefully happen at some point, and then I will hopefully have 6 months of data. Right now, Terry and I were working with 3 months. It was just through October, so the projections might be slightly more accurate than that's why I didn't make many changes on this one, but we are gonna be seeing another budget amendment at some point in the next few months to reflect the DHB coming in if it all gets approved, so.
So we do need a motion to accept the proposed budget amendment.
I'll move to accept the budget amendment number 1.
Okay? You have a second?
I'll be glad to second that one, amendment number 1.
All in favor? Unanimous? Okay. Next, I don't think there's a personnel committee report.
No.
And so you would go to other new business, and Michaela, you want to comment on those two items?
Yep, we have our 2024 meeting dates, so should be in your packet. I don't have much to add on them. It's our typical schedule that we've always agreed to.
Michaela, is that July?
Oh, sorry, the July 10th, Lisa did
Yes.
send out an updated one, but for the July, the original packet we sent out was July 12th, which is a Friday, and it's supposed to be July 10th, so just that one change. I believe Lisa did send out an updated revised copy on that, but, yeah, I'm sure we will be looking at a change for November and December, considering our December meeting falls on Christmas Day. So I anticipate a special call meeting for that. But we've discussed with Henry in the past of not doing that for our regular meeting schedules, just because our bylaws dictate what days and time we are supposed to meet. So we'll try and catch that early, maybe in August or September, and try and schedule a special called meeting for sometime in November or December, so.
Okay. On the financial disclosure, were you going to say a few words on the city financial disclosure?
I think we might need to take a motion to accept the meeting dates.
There are discussions right this morning from the commission.
On
Well, so we need
financial
So
disclosures?
we need a
Okay.
motion on the meeting
I think we'll
date?
take a motion on the meeting dates and then we
Okay, We need a
can,
motion on that.
I'll let you give an update on that.
Jim makes a motion, we accept the meeting dates.
Okay.
Second?
Okay, Dan seconds, all in favor? Okay, go ahead, Michaela, on the financial disclosure.
Okay. Steve might be able to update on the county better than I can, but my understanding is a moratorium is in place currently for the county on financial disclosures. They are looking at changing the forms, trying to simplify them somewhat, so,
Somewhere the form changed from last year.
okay.
I don't know how it changed, but it's different than the one I filled out last year, so I don't know.
We haven't
They're
even
having
filled ours
discussion-
out.
They were having a meeting at 10 o'clock with anybody who wanted to come to give your feedback on what needs to change with the form, so.
Okay.
And that can, I mean, you send them to Joe, who, chairman of the committee. Anybody has any recommendations on things to change?
Okay, so for right now, county appointees do not have to fill out the forms until the moratorium is lifted and they send out forms. The city appointed members still need to fill out the forms. Sorry, I should have printed them out for this meeting. I think they're due January 31st, is it? So we can mail those out to the city appointees. I'm not sure what we do for Junction and Pearville.
Works forms? Is that what you're saying?
What's that? Yeah, the city form.
appointees need to fill out city forms?
Yes, the city sent me a form. I thought we turned them all into the county, but I checked with Ashley Rader, the city clerk, and she has asked that city appointees fill them out. So at least Danville appointees need to fill out the financial disclosures, and we will turn them into the city, so.
Okay.
So I don't
Just one
believe
more
that will
form.
affect Commissioner Sleet or Commissioner Douglas at this point. I'm assuming we'll turn yours into the county if and when they lift the moratorium, so. So Lisa and I will mail those out to you all, and then you can bring them to the next meeting. You can fill them out at the next meeting. You can drop by the office and fill them out, however you want to do it. But I think they're due at the end of January, so we have some time, but.
I have a question. Steve, what did you say that when the counties was due?
The counties are not due at this point, because they're looking at changing the form. The commission is looking at changing the form. So, the city change, go ahead and fill them out, but it may not be what the commission wants. So
Well, somebody,
Yeah.
I think they're gonna be at the council meeting tomorrow night bringing forms for, the mayor and the council to fill out.
Are you sure they didn't cancel? Because they were supposed to come here and do that as well, and then they canceled because they formed this committee. No, it was somebody from the county. Somebody from the county was supposed to come to Planning Commission and BOA this month as well, and then they canceled because of the moratorium. So, I know, I'm probably not the best person to update on this because I haven't been involved in the discussions, but I'm just telling you what the county has told me is that county appointees, well, the county's opinion was that no one had to turn them in at this point because of the moratorium. The city's opinion is that city appointees need to fill out the city financial disclosure forms and return them by the end of January, so that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so are there any other questions on that? Okay, the one last thing, sorry, it's not on the agenda, but this issue just came up. We had an application for a conditional use permit for a short-term rental. We thought it was within Junction city limits. I made a mistake. It's about 100 feet outside of Junction city limits, and in the county, short-term rentals in the R1A zoning district are not allowed, so they could not actually apply for a conditional use permit, so we need to refund their application fee for that of $325. So I just want authorization from you all to do that, if I could get a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, Steve makes a motion, Jim seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then Michaela, do you want to say a couple words on the comprehensive plan?
Yep, so we had some staff turnover with the Bluegrass Area Development District. Joe Black had been working on the comprehensive plan and had been our point person or our contact person, but he's since moved on to work in Lexington, the LFUCG, so no longer with the Bluegrass ad. They've brought in one new hire, and they are actively interviewing other people to take the position, so they are looking for 2 people to take on the role to move forward. So I've started communicating with the one person that's come in. They're starting to work on the base study and things like that, and I'm waiting for the new hire whenever they come in to help finish off the goals and objectives, so hopefully bring those up sometime in January or February. So the plan is still moving forward. It's just there's been some turnover, and there's questions of how long it was going to take the ad to get somebody in, but it sounds pretty optimistic that a new hire should hopefully be in some point after the new year, pretty soon. So I'm more optimistic that we shouldn't have too much of a delay as a result of this. I thought I was going to have to take on a lot more of the project, but I do not think I'm going to have to do that anymore, which I am very grateful for. So that's pretty much where we're at. I know it's been a little bit quiet since we've had the public input meetings. That's a big part of the reason why, but we are hoping to bring some draft goals and objectives sometime in January or February. That will come through Planning Commission, and then it will go to each of the legislative bodies, and they'll have to adopt those. Once we kind of start going through that process is when we'll start looking at some additional public input meetings for land use charrettes, things like that, and actual writing of the plan. So it might end up being a little bit longer than we were anticipating, but I'm still hoping for sometime in the summer, potentially early fall, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Are there any questions on it?
Okay, well, first of all, Commissioner Boyd, we're glad to have you back, and we'd like to give you the honor of making the motion to conclude the meeting, adjourn.
Thank you. Chairman, I make the motion that we adjourn, and thank you very much. I'm glad to be back.
Yes. Do we have a second? Okay, all in favor? Okay, meeting adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you all.
Everybody, yeah.